Boeing is in the spotlight today with two back-to-back hearings on Capitol Hill. The first hearing is currently taking place where aviation experts are testifying before Congress regarding Boeing's safety concerns. You're looking at live pictures of that hearing right now on Capitol Hill. Now, the second hearing is going to include a Boeing whistleblower, which is set to start at 11:15 a.m. Eastern time this morning. Well, Boeing has denied the claims surrounding the safety of its 787 Dreamliner aircraft. We just heard from Senator Ted Cruz a few moments ago, and here's what he had to say about Boeing's current situation.
While it is clear that Boeing's culture and safety management needs drastic improvement, we should not rush to legislate just for the sake of legislating.
For more on what to expect from these hearings, we want to bring in Richard Safran. He's Seaport Research Partners Managing Director and Senior Analyst. Richard, it's great to have you here. So Boeing is facing multiple investigations from regulators, also from lawmakers. Just your assessment of what we're expecting to hear from the two testimonies happening on Capitol Hill today, and how significant this could potentially be here for Boeing.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So first off, I'm a bit cautious, and I think investors should treat this with a bit of caution, skepticism so far about the claims made so far in the 787. So I wouldn't necessarily act on what we've heard so far. I think second point is I think a lot depends today, to your question, on the evidence that I understand from the attorney involved is going to be presented today. If the claim has merit, there should be some documentation that Boeing signed off knowing that there were defects in workmanship, and that could affect the useful life of the airplane, or at least some data that would support the claim that refute what Boeing's been saying about the useful life of the airplane. Now, if the claim has merit, to the impact question you asked, if the claims have merit, big if, obviously this would be a devastating blow to Boeing on the order of what we've been seeing with the MAX. Aside from the likelihood of another production call, if there is a known defect, there would be penalties, investigations. All the airplanes in service would need to be repaired at some point if this is determined to be a safety of flight issue. But, I think the main point here right now is that we've seen no evidence whatsoever yet that I'm aware of, or data to support the claims that the whistleblower has been making. So I'll be eager to see what's presented today, if anything.
Richard, how much do you anticipate us learning today, given that executives are not going to be speaking? I know you mentioned wanting to hear more about the data piece. What are you going to be listening for, given, again, that we're not going to be hearing from executives at the top of the company today?
Well, the company has responded prior to this hearing, to these whistleblower hearings, and I felt it interesting that they went out and replied with two line managers on the 787 with data. So to answer your question, what I'm going to be looking for today is the evidence is going to be, what I think we're going to learn is what evidence there is to refute what Boeing has been saying, the quality of that evidence, and whether or not this whistleblower's claims have any substantiation to them. I think that's probably, in my view, the most important thing I think you're going to get out of the hearings today.
Richard, I think customers would probably argue the evidence is the plane having parts fly off during flight. What do you make of that piece of things, the idea that consumers' image of Boeing has already been tarnished by this, and therefore, of course, that could put pressure on the stock moving forward?
Well, first off, good point. Those issues, with the door, of course, were on the Boeing 737 MAX. The whistleblower appears to be making claims, as far as I understand it, on the Boeing 787 and some on the Boeing 777. So first off, just a bit of a nuance there, but a different one. But your point is well taken. Boeing needs to do three things here. They need to understand lessons learned, develop a good understanding of what the issues were, what went wrong, implement the changes, and hopefully the new CEO and the 90-day plan that we're working on right now does that. They need to execute. After the dust settles, management needs to keep execution as top priority. And as you say, a major thing here that they need to do is restore the brand, restore the public trust, That includes regulators, customers, as well as the flying public, people like me, who want to get on these airplanes. So I think that's really an important point right now, as you say, that they're going to have to make an extraordinary effort to restore the brand and the trust.
And Richard, to that point, we've also seen this willingness from Senator Cruz, who we just played a clip at him at the top of the interview, included just in terms of ramping up that oversight. What do you think, just in terms of what we hear today, how today's hearing, or do you think it at all, is going to give us a better idea of how that oversight could potentially shape up and what it could ultimately look like?
I think it's pretty clear we're going to have more oversight. I don't think, since the plan isn't complete, and there hasn't been a lot of time between, when these incidents first cropped up, that the FAA has a clear understanding of what actions it needs to take. So I'm not expecting a lot in terms of being able to answer your question today to come out of the hearing about what actually is going to be implemented. There already have been, certain changes made, et cetera. But the changes that Boeing is going to make and the regulators are going to need to make, I think, are still being ironed out. And I think you're going to have to wait at least until the 90-day plan is completed and they've had a chance to figure out how they're going to implement that.
Richard, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insights on Boeing. Really appreciate it. That was Richard Safran, Seaport Research Partners Managing Director.